I shit you not, I literally sent a message to a client before we got on and said, I'm literally going to read it. Like it's right here in front of me. It says, hey, can you do something for me? Well, it's actually for you. Walk out the back of your house or the house you're in right now, or the front, either way, and sit on the grass for 5 minutes and focus on being present in the moment, not letting any other thoughts come in. Just be present and see the world around you. Why? Right? Because, I feel like you need some calm today and it'll help you perform better for the rest of the afternoon.
What's undeniable is that when you get yourself in nature, you're able to switch off from the world almost in an instant. The sounds, the smells, the completely different experience that you're having when you're immersed in city life. Andrew Komenos takes people on adventures where they're not only getting to experience that presence, but he's also coaching them in the process. Really cool, unique way. We unpack the work that he does in that space, and also many of the lessons that you can learn in sport, probably learn it in space as well, including accessing that flow state and the power of repetition. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality. Find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. G'day Andrew, how you going?
Yeah, good mate. Yourself?
Really good. I can tell by the conversations we've already had just briefly now, this is going to be entertaining.
And funny.
Hopefully everyone else finds it entertaining.
Yeah.
The thing that stood out to me in your bio was something there that I love: aligning belief systems and action.
Yes.
Now, you can answer that question any way you want, whether it's through the sport lens, the business lens, or a bit of both. But can you explain to our viewers and listeners what do you mean by that?
It's my belief that your whole world is defined by your thoughts, your habits, and your actions. The reality is your life is just thoughts, habits, actions, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at it and say your thoughts define your habits and your habits define your actions and your actions define your life, what defines your thoughts? Belief, right? Because your belief systems, what you believe is what's going to define what you think, and then going to define your beliefs will also define your habits and define your actions. So the underlying principle is your belief systems, which then, control your thoughts, habits, and actions. The great thing is because they're also interconnected, the easiest way to change everything is to change your belief systems. However, right, you can also work backwards. It is way harder to go, all right, let me change my actions, which change my habits, which change my thoughts, and then maybe I'll change my belief systems.
Yeah.
But beliefs, your belief systems effectively control your actions, right? So I always say to people, one of my favorite sayings is everyone says knowledge is power. That's like the thing, right? And I always say knowledge is potential. Decisions is power. Your actions are your reality.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I like the quote, knowledge without action is not knowledge at all.
Yeah, it's just I don't even know what it is. It's something.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I love how you describe, you can do it the other way, but that's hard work. It's that force, that sort of grind culture that people talk about. Just push through it. And it just, why?
You know what's interesting though, is that I think the problem is that you're right. There is that grind culture of like push through it. But then the other end of the spectrum is there's that culture of if I just change my belief system, my whole world will be solved, right? But the problem is that's also not how it works, right? So I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of personal development. My whole life is personal development, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I notice is a lot of coaches teach their people they change belief systems. Like, you've got this new belief system, great, we're good. And then the person runs out into the street and they're like, yes, new belief system. But they don't think about the fact that their body and their mind has conditioned itself over the last 15 to 20 years to think and act and react a certain way. And so what you require is, I mean, a really good example of this actually is that I used to have a belief system a long time ago that people didn't actually like me. They just, I was that small doses friend, right? Because I was loud and out there and outrageous. I mean, as you can tell, I'm really quiet and subtle now. But that's it. They didn't actually like me. They just liked everything else. So what would happen is when I'd go to a networking event or I'd go to a party, I wouldn't connect on a deep level. I would always protect myself, right? And so when that would happen, I got so when that would happen, obviously I wouldn't develop these super deep connections. But when I changed that belief system, literally the first person I was talking to at a networking event, I was standing there and realized that my natural habit was to pull myself back. But what the change in belief system did is it allowed me to go, hang on, and notice that I was doing that. And then I was able to take what I call MMC, or momentary mental control, and say, no, I'm going to dive and I'm going to deeply connect with this human being. Now, deeply connecting with someone is not hard. I find that very easy. But at the time, it was that momentary mental control. And so what I tend to find happens is around belief systems, everyone learns this change of belief system, but then they don't actually end up changing it in the long run, and they backslide back into their old belief systems because they get this what do you call it? For self-fulfilling prophecy that backslides them back because they have all these conditioned habits that they don't then take control of. The belief system is just like a punch, but you've actually got to do the work. So it goes both ways, right? You can either do it the really hard, grindy way, or you can do the accelerator, but then, okay, I still have to touch the accelerator every now and then.
100%. I talk about that a lot. It's like, okay, we've broken the hold that old belief had, but now you've actually got to take the action to change the habit. And I don't know if you've experienced this with people that you're coaching as well, but sometimes it's like, then there's almost like this space that wasn't there before. And it just feels so unfamiliar. They get a bit lost there for a while because it's like, now what do I do? Like I've changed some things. It's allowed me to think of things differently. It's allowed me to slow down a bit. What do I spend my time on?
Well, that's one of the things that, you tend to find there is always I went to a program, actually, funny enough. It wasn't a program for me at all. I was there as a friend of I was a friend of someone, and she had this thing where she would talk about your new normal. And so she would indoctrinate people into this feeling of it's okay to feel that way. That's totally fine. You've got to find your new normal, right? And what I do is actually a little bit different from most people. I help people break the belief system, and then I call it a pain to pleasure principle, right? So we take them out of their pain and we put them in the pleasure of, okay, what's the belief system you need? And we actually train them in that belief system so that they fill that space, right? But they've got to fill the space, right? So I don't actually, I don't go, well, this was your old one, this has to be your new one, but it's like you fill the space, but we train that new belief system, right? And how do we train that into ourselves through momentary mental control and those sorts of things? So,
cool.
But I do get that because people are like, I don't know what to do with my life now. I was always not good enough. Why? I don't know what now. What do I do now? Now I can do things. Now I can be a human. That's crazy.
Sporting example that comes to mind. South Sydney fans in the NRL. I remember asking a few of them, like, how it must be so good, first premiership in 43 years. And they were like, no, actually, we feel lost. Like we kind of hung our hat on being the poor victims of never winning. And now that we've won, it kind of like we've lost part of our identity. And that's exactly what it's like, right?
Yes, that is that 100%. Like I was always, so when I was, a really good example of that is when I was in absolute pain through a relationship I was in the past. And I remember thinking to myself, it was just a really traumatic situation. And I remember thinking to myself at one point, where's the energy that I used to have? Where's this energy? I'm not that person anymore. I felt empty. Like, who am I? I don't have because you've lost some part of yourself. And I mean, it's easy to think, oh, when you lose a part of yourself in trauma, that that of course you feel empty, but people don't realize it's the same the other way too. When you lose a part of yourself by breaking through something, it's the same, right?
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's and so I remember thinking at the time that what I had to be good at, and this is the same thing with reason I mention it, is I was always looking back towards the energy I once had rather than looking forward to what the next version of me was.
That's good.
Because you can't go back.
No, exactly right. And literally had a conversation about this morning. It's when one of the hard wirings that people have is taking ridiculous amounts of action to fill a void. And then when you actually get them to realize that they actually add way more value when they just operate in this area and leave that stuff because it's not even your stuff anyway. It's like, well, I feel like I haven't got an energy. It's like, no, you're actually starting to feel a bit more normal now because you've got some space to give yourself a rest once in a while. Yeah, exactly, to breathe. So good.
I shit you not, I literally sent a message to a client before we got on and said, I'm literally going to read it. Like it's right here in front of me. It says, hey, can you do something for me? Well, it's actually for you. Walk out the back of your house or the house you're in right now, or the front, either way, and sit on the grass for 5 minutes and focus on being present in the moment, not letting any other thoughts come in. Just be present and see the world around you. Why? Right? Because, I feel like you need some calm today and it'll help you perform better for the rest of the afternoon. And that's exactly what that is. If you're giving, go, you're actually not performing at your best at all. All you're doing is just running a million miles a minute in an uncreative space.
Yeah. And you know what? The guest I interviewed previously, I'm not sure what order they'll fall in terms of the actual when these go out, but he was talking about, for him, he filled his days with exercise and he would exercise to exhaustion so he didn't have to overthink. And I'm like, oh man, that's what men do. Probably women too, but like men in terms of like that pattern of like, I'll just go, I'll run or I'll work or I'll, yeah, exactly. Like to the point of oblivion, but it's also serving a greater purpose, which is to switch off the mind. Fascinating.
And it's funny actually, because my whole philosophy around, or one of my whole philosophies around coaching is that exact principle, right? So one of my programs, I take people out on these adventures and we take them for this overnight adventure, and it's like brutal and they're tired and they're broken. And at nighttime around the campfire, that's when we do the coaching, when they're tired. So they've, their mind is shut off. So they can't fight you anymore. They can't be like, oh yeah, no, no, that doesn't happen to me. They're like, oh yeah, maybe I am a piece of shit. Maybe I need to change my life. Right?
So you break them, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm not the safe space guy, Ian. That's not my thing.
No, actually sounds fantastic. I love it. All right, we digress. What was, or do you have a really clear, positive sporting memory from your childhood?
Nope.
Didn't play sport?
Not as a child.
You're right.
Yeah, not as a child. I remember, so when I was a child, I played basketball, tennis, swimming, all these things that my dad wanted me to do. To be fair, I am so happy that my father made me learn swimming. I was a good swimmer. I became a great swimmer. And every time I go to the beach and everyone's like flapping around like a crazy person, and I'm just like,
cruising.
Your hand in here, put your hand in there. So, and you just cruise, right? But you would have seen it where people just, they can't swim. I mean, I really am grateful that my dad made me play sport, right? But I was saying to a friend of mine, because, like I told you, climbing changed my life. And I was saying to a friend the other day, literally, someone else with the same commitment to climbing as me would be a much better climber than me today, because I'm learning all those, all the body control and body movement things that everyone else learned as a kid,
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a pretty good climber, but like I could have been much better if I had just enjoyed sport when I was younger.
Well, I also look at it this way, and I love when you have these conversations and the synchronicity of like moments from just this week, right? I was having this conversation with someone about the sort of things that you get really good at coaching. Well, I imagine you're really good at helping people who are picking up late to unpack all those movements, because the ones who've been doing it their whole life, it's just ingrained. They don't know how or why, whereas you can unpack it all and explain it to them in really basic terms, I imagine.
Absolutely. It's funny enough. It's actually what it's one of the things that I have become very good at with, like when it comes to like just business stuff, business coaching in general, really, is that a lot of people say, oh, use our one system funnel marketing strategy, exponential growth 10 times X formula, right? And some elaborately long name. And they're like, and you'll make $22 million. And what a lot of people don't realize is that guy didn't do that at the start either.
No.
That's not how, when he was a multi-six-figure business or $1 million business, not a $50 million business, he wasn't doing that. That's not what he was doing, right? He had to have his processes and strategies and this stuff, and very different scenario. And so that's that is genuinely exactly what it is like being able to model what that growth path actually looks like, which is exactly what you're saying in the sporting world is, when I have friends come in who've never climbed before, I'm able to say, this is how I learned to move my body 15 weeks ago. Not when I was a kid. I'm a lot more conscious of it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think what you described there is perfect for anyone who feels like they want to or they can't, or maybe they're comparing themselves, is that we've all had some sort of journey, and when you can take people on the very path that you've been on and shortcut their path, well, then that's where the value is.
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly it actually is. But it's remembering to shortcut their path, not shortcut them. You're not trying to get them to where you are, but you are. No. But the thing is, people like what I find a lot of people do is they go, hey, this is how you do this. Whether it's like they might say, this is how you do a knee drop, or this is how you run a CRM, or this is how it can be in any facet of life. But the problem is, to be able to do that knee drop effectively or be able to run that CRM effectively, there's about 6 steps along the way. But what are those steps first to learn how to do that? But people go, oh, but all you got to do is do this. It's like, well, great. I don't understand, and therefore I don't have the intuition. Therefore, I don't know when the hell I'm going to use it or if I can even do it. Like, there's so many things, and I think that's what's really important is that it's that shortcutting the steps to get there. But you need to go, okay, what's their first step? It's like I say to people, if we lived in that world where you could, on some movies, there's those movies where they plug something into their brain and then suddenly they get downloaded with the information and they know how to do karate, right? Pretty sure that person would start doing karate and just break their leg because their body isn't conditioned for it, right? It doesn't work like that. So
100%. Yep. Yes, agree wholeheartely. I don't know where I was going to go there, but it's completely slipped my mind. So if you didn't...
I have a habit of doing that.
You didn't... So you did play some sport, but it was very much under duress by the sound of it. I think this is an important conversation because I think a lot of people who have been through that journey would be able to identify it. And then if we can, through that lens, then dive into how that might have impacted you negatively in other areas when you become an adult, right? So what was that? If we get back to the childhood version, like what sort of things did you experience that it wasn't so positive?
Well, I think probably a lot of parents do this actually, and I made a conscious effort with my children not to. Is a lot I was playing sports for my dad. That's what he wanted me. He wanted me to play these sports. He didn't give a shit about what sports I wanted to play. He'd get about what sports he figured were good for me. Right now, swimming, fine, totally get it. Right, and there are some things you just listen to your parents about, right? And so I don't want this to come across as like just let your kids do whatever they want to do, because that's not what it's about. But at the same time, you know, I played tennis for a little while, and I clearly hated it. I played soccer for a little while, and I clearly didn't like. Man, there was a time when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, or something, and there's literally a video of me running around the field with my arms out wide, playing aeroplanes on the field because I just didn't want to be there. I was literally just pretending to be an aeroplane as I ran around the soccer field, right? When the ball comes past me in the video, and I'm just like, little 7-year-old. And I think what happened as I got older is like all the sports I played were the sports that none of the ones that I wanted to play, right? None of the ones that I didn't choose them. And I remember even asking to play a couple of things, right? But I think what happens is parents are like, well, if you're gonna play a sport, right, I'll let you play this sport, but you have to commit to it really hard, right? It's like, hang on a minute, right? What if they play it for a few things and they don't like it, right? There's plenty of sports that I hate, right? And so, but here's the thing. So with my daughters, right, what I did at the time was I said, all right, what do you want to do? And they were like gymnastics. And I went, cool, right? And then I waited for them to show a genuine interest in gymnastics. Like if they kept asking for a while, all right, you've been asking to play gymnastics for a while. You've learned how to do a cartwheel, this, that, and the other. Then we put them in lessons. And lo and behold, guess what? They enjoy doing it, right? Or I say, great, let's go do a couple of lessons. So dancing was a really good one, right? They're like, oh, we really want to try dancing. I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, I want to try dancing. I'm like, okay, cool. Right. Let's take you to a dance lesson. We're not going to get like dance shoes and all that sort of stuff. Let's take to, as soon as it was structured, guess what?
Didn't like it.
Nah, didn't like it because what they wanted to do is like, flap their arms around and have a good time. Right?
Oh, you avoided an absolute money pit there with dance schools.
Yeah, because gymnastics is so much better.
Oh, very good. Well, actually, it's all getting pretty expensive these days. What really struck me then when you were talking about the aeroplane was it sounds like what I'm also seeing now is that you're a performer, you're a creator, right? Like so the structure of football, like that's not what you wanted to be doing. You wanted to be entertaining and you wanted to be creating and is that fair reflection? Performing perhaps is the right word.
I don't know, actually. I've never been that interested. Maybe that's the thing, actually. Maybe I've never really been that interested in team sports, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like I've never really so the only two sports, three, if you consider one of them a sport, the only three that I've really been interested in that have really clicked in for. Golf for a while. I enjoyed golf for a while, but I realized it just made me way too angry. Golf makes you very angry as a person, right? It's a really good way to ruin a nice good walk. Right? I still play golf every now and then, but I was never any good at it. But I did love golf for a while. And then climbing, and what I call like hiking and performance hiking to some degree, right? So, I mean, I know there's not adventure racing, right? No. Just when I say, I more do it for myself, right? My mate, oh my gosh, my adventure buddy is like, oh, you need to come do these adventure races with me. And I'm like, Pete, I'm not a runner. I'm never going to be a runner. Stop. It's not happening.
Right? Was that just a belief system? I'm joking. Keep going.
Oh no, I go for runs every week, but it's like I can't think of it. Like they run for like 40 kilometers.
Oh no, it's mad. You know what golf is?
What?
It's the best opportunity to see the things that you still need to heal. So anger, I can relate.
Yeah. Oh mate, I've never I tell you what though, golf taught me patience. If there was. It was funny because I was playing golf I was really into golf when I was in my past relationship, the really traumatic, toxic one. And it was funny because I had to have patience in my relationship. And that really taught me patience beyond another level. I've never known it before. but which in turn actually helped my golf game, because like both of those things were teaching me patience at the same time. Because what had happened is I'd always inevitably get this, I'd be like, oh, I'm playing so well. And then 5 holes in, I'd have like a hole where I'd shoot for 10. And I'd be like, oh, goodness. And then you'd just lose it, right? And you had to learn how to bring it back and catch, it's an 100%. Interesting sport, that's for sure.
It is. Yes, it definitely tests the patience, that is for sure. What got you into hiking?
Climbing.
Oh, sorry. Let me ask it again. What got you into climbing?
This is a good one, actually. So about 2 years from the end of that relationship, I was with my daughter, and she just wanted to go do something different for a day, right? Just something, and we'd never been climbing, either of us. And so I was like, oh, let's go for a climb. And so I took both my daughters and me for a climb. And the little one, the older one, got on the wall. She got about 5 steps off the ground, freaking out, came back down. And then the younger one just yeeted just straight to the top of the wall, bang, straight up. And and the guy's like, I've never seen someone of that age. She was like 4 at the time. She's never seen someone of that age just go up the wall like that. You should get her into climbing. Anyway, and she decided she loved climbing because, she had been told how amazing climbing was. Like, she told how amazing she was. As soon as it became structured again, I wasn't a massive fan. But I climbed that day, and what happened, because I was probably going into a dark space and I didn't realize it at the time.
Yep.
As soon as my hand touched the wall and I was on the wall, there was nothing else. It was just me and the wall. That's
presence.
All it was. Yeah, total presence. And to this very day, it's the same thing. Man, it's like a mental, physical, and spiritual game, climbing. Like, it's just, you're just so present. And I finished, like, so we went home, and then I started going climbing at this other place. I went with a couple of friends, or with a friend, and then I met other people, and then it just snowballed into the most expensive thing I've ever done in my life. Because climbing gear is not cheap. But yeah, that was it. That was how I got into it. But what happened was, I actually see climbing as the absolute lifesaver for me, because I went through a really, really hard time after that period, like a super hard time. And it was because of climbing. Climbing was like, I would climb like almost every day. And I would go to the climbing gym, and I would sit on the mat with my mates, right? And as soon as my hand touched the wall, it was like nothing else.
So
just
good.
you and the wall.
Yeah, love it. It's a recurring theme in this podcast is how much of a sanctuary people's chosen sport is, and how they're able to detach from all the other things going on. I also know that there's so many transferable skills. So you mentioned how it taught you presence and it got you through a really difficult time. What does it continue to teach you that you now apply to the other areas of your life?
Well, have you got 4 hours?
You told me I've got a time limit, so no.
Yeah, I did tell you that. No, climbing got me. So it was because of climbing that I found adventure, right? So I got into climbing, and I was climbing indoors, and almost everyone these days starts indoors and stays indoors. But I remember the first time I went outdoor bouldering, because actually that was the first outdoor experience I had. Is I went outdoor bouldering, and like, it was like climbing, but on another level. The spiritual presence, that everything was on another. Because when you are on a rock and you're not in a gym and you're not on this big pillow anymore, and you could fall and break your ankle, now that's presence on another level. That's like, oh damn, like I'm in, right? You are zoned in, right? And you realize that you're not willing to take the risks that you were willing to take. Like when I'm in the gym, you should, You just let go of the wall, throw yourself to the next hole. You don't care. When you're on a rock outside and you got a 2 meter drop below you, even onto some pads, you're still a bit like a little bit more cautious in your moves. And all of a sudden a lower level climb becomes a lot harder than it does in the gym. And so I think climbing, then like I realized how much I enjoyed being outdoors and I enjoyed being in the middle of nature. And then like we would hike to the boulder, and I really enjoyed the hiking part. And then my mate was like, "You need to come on this hike with me," right? And then I had I'd pretty much been walking every day, and I'm like, you know what? Why am I just walking around the neighborhood? Surely there's a hiking track around me somewhere. And so I drove out to this hiking track and I started hiking, and then I was doing 5 kilometer hike, 10 kilometer hikes, 15 kilometer, 20 kilometer, 25 kilometer, like all in these like early morning sessions, and then going climbing. It was nuts. And then like I just became obsessed with everything outdoors. And then, I started going on, my mate was like, "Hey dude, you're really fit. I want to take you somewhere." And he took me to this mountain, which is meant to be the hardest hike in Queensland, called Mount Barney.
Yeah.
And it was nuts. It's just like, it's a next level, like gnarly hike with like, there's scenarios there that if you fall, it's like you're gone.
Yeah,
like
right.
Hundreds of meters, right? It's, there's next level. I mean, to be fair, from a climbing perspective, it's pretty easy. Like you could go up and just do the hike. You'd want someone to guide you though. Anyway, it's not like you're not free climbing something. It's not up a vertical wall. You know what I mean? But there is sections where you're like, don't fall.
Yes.
Because that's not going to go well for you. But yeah, I did that, and I realized how much that was literally just the amalgamation of hiking and climbing and summiting this mountain and getting to this peak, and that was amazing. And just, what it taught me is all these epic things like resilience and overcoming fear. And I mean, I've always been pretty good with fear management, right? But this is like next level fear management. You know what I mean? Like understanding truly how to manage, overcome, and take and just delete fear. And it's not that it deletes it, but it's like it's on full control. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so good. Have you read Steve Kotler's Rise of Superman?
No, I haven't.
Different sort of Superman. But he talks about how extreme athletes are able to access different levels of flow states, and how general athletics, the increase in performance has been just fairly steady, not even a curve, just like a gentle slope, whereas the increase in performance in elite extreme athletes is exponential, and they're doing things now that would have been laughed at 5-10 years ago. The one example was that surfing Jaws was originally you had to be out there with boats, and you had to get towed in and all these different things. There were so many different things, whereas now people are just paddling into waves that are, I don't know, whatever. I probably won't get the amounts wrong, but 60, 70, 80 foot sort of waves, like they're just free paddling in. And it's like, well, why is that possible? And it's what you talked about there, is that you've got to have these things in place. You need to have certain element of things in place because your life depends on it. And then you've got to build new levels of trust quickly, and you need to be able to know how to access that flow state. So what you described when you jumped on that wall for the first time, that kind of that's what my thought process went. It's like you're accessing that everything else just melts away. Is that what it feels like now when if it's something that you've done before and you feel confident, do you just sort of hit that state where everything else just melts away and you're fully in the moment?
Yeah. Like, I mean, a really good example is a couple of weeks ago, I had a massive week, like in my business, right? Really positive week. But I'm very big on filling your cup, right? I mean, that's part of, performing well in your business.
Yeah.
And on Friday afternoon, so me and my partner had decided we were going to go camp at Mount Barney on the weekend. And literally I dropped my at 5:30, I was like, I'm done for the week. I had to shut everything off. I stepped out, packed my bag. The second we hit the trail on Mount Barney, everything just disappeared. right? And then you're just
Yeah.
totally focused. You're totally in
Yeah.
state. And the other thing is it just resets. And I say that when you're out in nature, I mean, everyone knows this, but when you maybe they don't, but when you're out in nature, it actually has proven effects to reset your parasympathetic nervous system, right?
Yep.
So because our bodies are more in tune from hundreds of thousands of years of the sounds of nature than they are to the sounds of the city.
Yep.
And so, it's actually really good. It's actually one of the reasons why literally seeing water for like 3 minutes or something can calm your whole nervous system, right? It's like a crazy thing.
Yeah.
And I reckon, based on what we're talking about, I was thinking about just then, sport, if your chosen sport probably does a very similar thing.
Absolutely.
It just resets your parasympathetic nervous system to like a really calm state.
And importantly, the part of that sport that really lights you up.
Yeah.
Not every part of it necessarily. Like, and I'm thinking about my experience yesterday, like big week as well, big couple of weeks, day off tomorrow. So I'll be able to chill out, get on the golf course, fired up a bit.
Oh, so you're a golfer.
So, but I'm coaching my under 18s football team, and everything you described there, everything else just melts away. I'm just so present in it, and yeah, like loving it. And it's finding what that is for you, not just in your chosen sport, but actually how that's transferable. So I know you do marry the two a fair bit in your business. So what are the key transferable skills from hiking, adventure, climbing that you take into coaching people in their businesses and their sales?
So I have a principle, and if you could see the back of my shirt right now, it's written right there. I talk about mind, body, profit. And the reason I say it is that your mind is the catalyst to everything. Your body is that vitality and energy that you need to get through the day. And then your profit is just, the sales systems, sales strategies, sales skills. But I mean, that's all worthless if your mind and your body's not in function, right? Yeah. So what did I learn from, how do I marry them? Well, firstly, I mean, hiking and climbing and scrambling and adventure, I mean, that trains your body. And that's really simple, right? You need to train your body because think of it this way, right? When you first step out on the trail, you can do an easy trail that's, 3 to 5 kilometers long and your legs are pooped and you've gone up a couple of hills and you're like, oh, right? Now, I take people out on these, through a gorge and through these like reasonably easy trails on Mount Cootha, for one of my half-day adventures. And I mean, there's this one steep hill and I just walk up it like it's literally nothing. I get to the top and I'm not even breathing, right? Yeah. I mean, it is a steep hill, right? To be fair, like in terms of general, things, it's a steep hill. But I've trained my body to a point where that's easy for me, but everyone else gets to the top and they're like, they're so puffed. And I was that person. And I remember going, so I mean, that's that way. But for mine, it's, I talk about the 5 key principles of mental fortitude or mental performance in your business is ownership. When you're out on the trail and you're on an adventure, you need to own your own shit. It's on you. It's not on anyone else. If you decide to walk out there, you have one rule: come back alive. That's it.
Yeah.
That's your only rule, right? So it's not on your shit is not on anybody else, right? If you're going to climb up this wall and there's a potential of you falling, that's on you.
Oh, fast tracking, taking responsibility for your life.
Yeah, that's on you. No one else can do it.
That's it. That's good. Yeah.
Number 2 is overcoming fear. It's fear, learning fear management, right? Learning if I can give one tip to anyone about overcoming fear, it's learn to engage the fight response, not the flight response. That's what anyone who overcomes fear does. They engage that fight response, right? Because you can't get rid of fear. It doesn't just go away, right? Yeah. What happens is it's there and you learn to control it and go, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yep. That's good.
So, I mean, I've got a whole system around that, but I mean, so overcoming fear. And then the other things, the other 3 are day-to-day resilience, right? So everyone talks about resilience, I think, in a really long format, but here's the reality, right? I'm 35, right? You're, I don't know, 26, whatever.
Double that.
Right? I was being nice, all right, Ian.
Yeah. Too nice.
I could have said you're like 60, and then you would have been like, thanks, mate, appreciate it. So, we've all lived a life, and you're still alive. You're still here. You're pretty resilient as a person. You've been through hard times. You've made it through. You're fine. But I think what defines the quality of your life, just like the quality of a trail, is your day-to-day resilience, or on a trail is your momentary resilience, right? Yes, I'm tired. Yes, my legs are sore, but wow, look how beautiful that tree is, right? And day-to-day resilience is like saying, I drop my phone, it hits the ground, the screen breaks. Is that the end of my day? Is my day over now? Or, right, do I still notice that awesome coffee that I had this morning? Do I still, all the little things? So that's that. And then the other ones are, the other two is being out in adventure. It gives you a sense of purpose. It really does. You have a really clear, defined purpose.
Yeah.
Reach this, get back alive, right? Return to your car safely, right? Seriously, it's a purpose. You've got an absolute goal, right? And it's and sometimes the absolute goal, for me, there's this saying that I love that says, the man who loves walking will always walk further than the man who loves the destination, right? And I love walking, right? That. So the goal is not necessarily getting to the summit, but there is one absolute goal, and that's stay safe, stay alive, right? Because when you are on a true adventure, right, there is things like you have to be able to drink water, eat food, stay safe, don't get yourself in dangerous situations. There's all these management things, and these are purposes. So you have purpose. You're really focused.
Yeah.
And one thing that nature and adventure can do for you that like nothing else, I believe, on the planet, is it can bring you peace. And these are the 5 core elements, right? Ownership, overcoming fear, day-to-day resilience, finding purpose, and having peace. And if you can, because here's the thing, right? If you can't find peace every day of your life, if you can't find 5 minutes to just be in the world, to just exist, to just enjoy the fact that you're alive, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And the piece on that being the thing that will find your peace, like adventure, I agree. I also know that there are certain people that's not going to work for. Like you were saying before, it's like it's not one size fits all. It's finding what it is for you.
Exactly
because
right.
some people will find their peace just by sitting in nature and finding absolute stillness.
That's why I meant nature. Sorry, yeah. I should have clarified. I meant nature will find you peace. Adventure finds me peace.
You might have even said that, so it might have been a misinterpretation. But either way, it's still making sure that you find the thing that works best for you. But yes, absolutely, nature. You can't go wrong. How do you then help people who maybe don't get as, I know the easy answer is to say you take them on one of your retreats, but how do you help people in their day-to-day life to find more levels of peace when maybe their access to an adventure area is limited, shall we say?
My friend, there's adventure everywhere. You're never limited in adventure, right? This is the thing, right? Like, I mean, like nature, if you really think about it, nature is everywhere. It's everywhere. Yep. But I was thinking about this the other day, right? One of the things that I get some of my clients to do, and something that I do, is people, when they're focusing on work, one of the things they do is they're like, oh my God, I'm so frazzled. And I said, dude, go get your headphones, put them on, and play some nature sounds, and just sit there for 5 minutes and listen to that, and close your eyes. Yeah. Right? This is what I'm saying, right? We have so much access to technology, so much access to things that we can do. It's about taking the time to do them, right? But like, if you need one of the things that I say to people, I think the most important thing, if you need to find peace on a daily basis, one of the biggest ways, in my opinion, that you can find peace is you don't even need to be out in nature. step away from your computer, walk out where you can see the sun, right? Just see the sun, right? Don't look directly at it, please. That's probably not favorable for your eyes. But like somewhere where you can see the sun, sit down on the ground or on a seat somewhere, and don't close your eyes. Just sit there and be totally present in the moment, and say to you, and don't let any other thoughts come through for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. And just say, you literally just sit there and you just go, I'm going to be totally present in this moment. And you notice that rock roll down the road, or this blade of grass move, or the tree sway, or whatever it is. And you just be totally present. I promise you, you do that for 5 minutes, you'll find a different level of peace than you had 5 minutes beforehand.
And as an observer, and someone who's like been that observer all my life, I find that easy. For people that I've spoken to who are like, oh, I can't meditate, I can't do that, they're feeling so wired. What's a strategy you can help them to find that more of that presence when they see something there and then they get distracted by this and a thought takes them on another tangent?
So it's so one of the easiest ways for that is just repetitious statements in your head of be present in the moment, be present in the moment. Literally, I just get people to say that over and over and over again in their head. And so what actually happens is they're so focused on saying be present in the moment that they can't think about anything else, right? And they're just like, be present in the moment, be present in the moment. Now, what will happen is eventually that they won't need that statement anymore, because they'll just be able to block out thought for 5 minutes. It's just mindfulness. But what actually happens for a lot of people, I think, is, I mean, I've done this with hundreds of people at this point. And even the most wired people find that 5 minutes goes like that.
Yeah.
And the reason they find that is because they're so focused on not thinking, right? And I don't get them to close their eyes. I don't say, sit there, close your eyes and say, be present in the moment. Because when you close your eyes, you're left with it. I'm saying, I want you to be in the world. Notice what's around you. See it. Look at it. Pay attention. But just be present. Just be here without anything else. Give your brain a rest, right? And so I would just repeat that same statement to myself over and over again so that I don't think of anything else. Because unlike you, my natural state is to have lots of thoughts. And that's how I started. I had to start with just be present in this moment right now.
So good. And I wouldn't say I'm always clear of thoughts. I'm just saying I know how to access that state easily.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been the case. But what I love about that answer is it relates so much to sport. Repetition, right? When we want to get better at something, we repeat the skill again and again and again, so that it just becomes second nature. And it's the same sort of similar language that I talk to people when they say they can't meditate, or the visualization that I take them through is not going so well. It's like, that's why it's called a practice, because it's like anything. You need to repeat it, and you need to continue to practice it and get better and get better. So I love that. I love that way you described it, because it's the perfect analogy through that sporting lens that people will get.
Isn't it? You were talking about synchronicity earlier. I mean, this is synchronicity for you in a nutshell, right? Is that I was talking to someone about this, what I call intentional consistency, right? Because I think true habit and true power or true performance comes from intentional consistency, right? My brother was a really good example. He could have been a professional basketball player, hands down, easily. Like, he was top league. He was that good. And there was a couple of other people around him that were about as good as he was. And the difference was, and one of those guys made it, and John, my brother, didn't. And the reason he didn't is he used to train 2 or 3 hours a day consistently, right? But he would run around the court, shooting balls, throwing layups, doing this with no real intention. It was just running around training, right? This other guy shot 100 free throws, 100 this, that, and the other. Like, he practiced specific skills with absolute intention and change. And, and that's that level of consistency is really important. But if you have no intention behind it, and I find it really interesting, because one of the big ways that we see people do this is, and you would have heard this in your coaching practice all the time, oh, affirmations just don't work for me. Yeah, well, of course they don't work, because you downloaded some random affirmation thing and say, I am really good at life. I am really good at life. And it means nothing to you. It doesn't mean anything to you, right? You've got to choose, like, okay, you want to get better at, let's say, a really good one for me, because I want to make sure that I don't eat too much crap food for performance, purposes. I say to myself every morning, I'm like, I eat healthy every day, because my food is my vitality, and that is who I am.
That's cool.
Right now, that's a direct, intentional statement designed and crafted specifically only for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so it actually means something to me, because it touches, because I can attach it to my morals and values. But if you just and so that's what I mean by intentional consistency, rather than just saying, I am positive every day. Right. What works for you is different to what works for me.
So good. And we come at it from the same angle, but different terminology. And for me, it's like structure, right? That's what you're talking about with that intention. Like the other person's training was very structured, and if we bring that part, and that's the bias towards that's probably for me, my own experience is like I never felt like I had structure. In corporate, I had bosses who were no good at providing structure, and I just had to work it out myself. And when you're shit at it and you depend on it, you get really good at something. And so what you described there, I feel like I need to interview your brother, because it sounds like he'd be a cracking story. Because let's be honest, for every person who makes it in any area, there's thousands and thousands of people who could have, or maybe should have. Use that word "should" carefully. When you were talking about that escape from life by climbing, and I was mentioning how people were talking about it being a sanctuary, and you mentioned, you used a phrase, something around protecting yourself, but you were referring to the climbing part. But I imagine there would have been an element of you, like that space would have been you protecting yourself from the chaos or whatever else that wasn't going so good in the rest of your life.
I don't remember where I said protecting myself, to be honest, but I do know what I think last time I remember saying protecting myself was about when I wouldn't deeply connect with people. Was that?
No, I think you were talking about when you were going from indoor climbing to outdoor climbing, maybe.
Oh yes,
actually, I'm not even sure, but it was more. It just struck me that that's a really through that lens of sport being the sanctuary, or whatever your chosen pastime is, just getting an understanding of what that would mean for you, for people that, kind of like the amount of people that say sport saved my life, or this saved my life, or this particular thing saved my life. It is a protection mechanism, but only to a point, right? If climbing helped you at that time, there certainly would have then been a time where you had to go, well, I can't just make this about me switching off from that part of my life that was shit. I actually need to now be intentional, as the word that you described, about exactly why I'm doing this.
Well, yeah, actually, I found it was funny, because I found I found along the way that I was climbing 4 times a week, and I was hiking for like 2 or 2.5 hours a day. I mean, and I still have a habit where, I mean, I am super intentional now, but it wasn't intentional. Like my intention then was to perform as highly as I possibly could in both those areas. And I was super consistent. But what I was really doing is I was still in healing mode, right? I was still healing myself. And so I was using exercise as a form of escape, I guess, from pain, right?
And it's a healing tool in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. And so then, but now, the intention is, I mean, I was probably fitter then than I am now.
Yeah. Wow.
But the difference is now, I also have a business to run. I have this, that, and the other. I'm not just focused on my purpose for that in that time was just to heal. That was it. That was my whole purpose.
Yeah.
I was working in a job and I was just, I'm going to focus on healing myself, right? I'm going to focus on, my whole purpose for that year was just healing. And so I was spending so much time hiking and then, climbing and everything else. But now I probably do, I exercise every morning for like the first half an hour to an hour of every morning is me exercising. And then I also do climb 3 or 4 times a week. And I always do some crazy adventure on the weekend.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
I still do that. But now the intention, like I have such a bigger intention around what I'm doing, in the sense of my morning is about my morning habits, my morning routine, how it sets me up for the day. It's not just running away, right? And
that's good.
And my climbing is because it is my sport. It is my thing that I love doing, right? It's it's my sanctuary. It's like that fills my cup. Like when we got off this podcast, I got other stuff to do. I guarantee you tonight I'll be in the climbing gym.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. Great answer. Hey, I know you've got to go in a minute. Can you quickly give me some wisdom around the importance of self-belief, whether you're talking about adventure, climbing, business, whatever it is? Maybe an answer that could cross across all barriers.
Self-belief, isn't that a good one? I think we said this before, right? Thoughts, habits, actions, and it all stems from self-belief, right? But if you want to, I think a lot of people say that self-belief is, if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. I mean, the reality is there's a possibility that you can, even if you don't believe you can. I mean, we've all had it. We've all done it, right?
That's true.
Think about a time where you're like, I can't do that. And someone's like, oh, just freaking do it. And then you do it. You're like, oh, maybe I can do it, right?
Yeah.
We all can do things even if we don't believe in them.
Yeah.
Depending on how much persistence you have. The difference between self-belief and not having self-belief is what things you will naturally just do by yourself. And the reality is people can't be pushing you every day of your life. People can't push you every moment. People can't make you, chase your dreams, right? There's a difference between me going out in the middle of, the forest somewhere and making one of my clients climb up a waterfall and then going, I can't do that. And then they get to the top, like, wow, maybe I can. I'm like, now relate that back to your life, right? And, maybe there's some things that you can do in your life that you don't think you can do. And I think that's the thing. It's relating the fact that, things that you didn't think you could do, you could do. So how many times are you leaving, so to speak, money on the table and not doing things in your life because you just don't believe you can do them, when the reality is you probably could do them? Right. So self-belief is about understanding that, no one can be there for you 24/7 to make you achieve your dreams. And changing your self-belief, or your belief in yourself, is what will define your success in whatever your endeavor is, whether it's sporting, whether it's business, whether it's adventure. I always say on the trail, confidence without complacence. If you are not confident, you will injure yourself because you won't step confidently. If you are complacent, you will injure yourself because you'll take risks that you don't need to take, right? So it's confidence without complacence. And that's the same thing in life, right? Confidence without complacence. And if people really want a really quick way to shift a belief system, I mean, I do like a big 3-hour session, but just think about it from pain to pleasure. Right? It's about saying, what pain is it going to cause me in my life if I don't change this belief? And if I do change this belief, what pleasure am I going to have in my life if I do change it? Because that's how we function as humans. Humans avoid pain and go towards pleasure. That's exactly what we do, right? Yeah. The problem is very often we get confused over short-term pain and long-term pain.
Yep. Spot on. Way too often. I love that analogy used there around money in the bank, because that's what struck me when you talked about your formula there and profit, is that it's not just the profit that you get from business and money, it's the profit that it gives you in terms of your health, your your well-being, your relationships, all of it.
Yeah.
Andrew, I better let you go. I know you've got to get to another appointment. I appreciate you coming and sharing your wisdom. We'll make sure we get all your links and information in the show notes. If anyone wants to go on an adventure with you and test the boundaries of their life and business, then they can look Andrew up.
Absolutely. Definitely come along. You should come along, Ian, if you're ever in Brisbane.
Don't worry. You were describing it. I'm like, yeah, I think that sounds like something I need to do. That's cool.
Definitely. All right,
Good,
mate. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Some powerful lessons there shared by Andrew. I highly recommend adding to your game plan, having more presence in your life. I loved how he described how getting out in nature and adventure helps you to find more of that presence, helps you find more resilience in the moment. He also talked about how much sense of purpose you can find when you're out there adventuring and being in nature. And if you're looking for some more purpose in your life, email me info@ianhawkinscoaching.com, put purpose in the title and ask me to send you my training on how you can find your purpose. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.